Did you know that some translations actually manipulate the translation in order for you to have a particular interpretation? Hey, TikTok, Angela Parker, Boozy Bible Scholar, talking to you about Bible translations. So I'm going in with my Danessa Myricks. This is the Lightwork Volume 7 that just came out. Lightwork Volume 7. I'm using the blue palette, going in with Midnight Moon. Is that what that's called? Yeah, Magic Moon. So it's the gray shade. I'm going to carve out my crease. So, what am I talking about? I had 2 instances this week where students were reading from unapproved translations. And when I say unapproved translations, I'm talking about translations of Bible that I do not approve of to be read in the classroom. I am a seminary professor. I give them 3 translations that they can read from when we're reading in our classroom, when we're reading the biblical text. I'm teaching Foundations in New Testament for a historically Black theological institution, and then I'm teaching biblical interpretation in the age of Black Lives Matter for my institution. So I'll do the historically Black institution today, and I'll talk about the other I'll talk about the biblical interpretation in the age of Black Lives Matter on tomorrow. Because what happened in Foundations in New Testament, we were reading the Gospel of Matthew. And in the Gospel of Matthew, we were at the Canaanite woman in Matthew chapter 15. So now I'm going to stop right here because now I have all this gray, and I'm going to go into Grounded with a different brush. So I'm going in with the Sonia G Crease Pro into Grounded. This is this black shade. I'm going to deepen my outer corner. Oh, this is deep. So Matthew 15:21 through 28. That is the story of the Canaanite woman comes to Jesus, begging Jesus to heal her daughter who is demon possessed, daimonia possessed. And at first, Jesus does not answer her a word. And then the disciples are funny to me because they say, "Send her away, Jesus. She is crying after us." And I always laugh because she is not crying after y'all, boo-boos. She is crying after Jesus. But that's besides the point. And then Jesus finally talks to her and says, "I am only sent to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." She bows down, worshiping him, and says, "Lord, Bathea may have mercy on me." And the student is reading this passage, and you have to realize I'm reading along with them, and I'm reading in the Greek, and they are reading their English translation. And at verse 26, that's where Jesus says, "It is not good," and it's like Estin Kalan, it is not good. So Uk Estin Kalan, it is not good to throw the crumbs, artan or breadcrumbs, to the dogs. And the student read her translation, and she said, "It is not good to take the bread of the children and throw it to their dogs." And I paused and I said, "Read that verse 26 again." And she said the same thing. "It is not good to take the bread of the children and throw it to their dogs." And I said, "Oh, this is going to be a good teaching moment. This is going to be a good teaching moment." So I'm taking my Sonia G Builder Pro. I'm going to go into Mother's Love. And so this is where I'm diabolical professor. And I said, "Tell me which translation you are reading from." And she says, "I'm reading from the NIV." And I'm like, "Is that an approved translation?" And then the class is like, "Ooh." And I'm like, "No, that's not an approved translation." And then I'm like, now I'm about to tell you why this is not an approved translation. And she's confused. And I'm like, "It's okay. We're going to learn today." And I say, "Let me read to you the Greek." and I start to read to them the Greek, and I say, remember early on in the semester when I said, translators make decisions for you that you do not know that they make? Well, right here, translators added a word that you do not know that they added. They added a pronoun. Here's where pronouns are important, where people don't even want to, address people by their proper pronouns. But here they added a pronoun in the NIV. So you can tell I'm a little upset by this. They added the pronoun their dogs. They made it seem like the children owned dogs. Well, first of all, in the Roman imperial context, nobody would have owned a dog like that, because a dog has to be fed, and people aren't going to feed dogs, especially if they're poor. That's the first thing. Second thing, that made it seem like Jesus was not calling her a dog in Matthew chapter 15, when in actuality, he was calling her a dog. I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to go into, let's go into this one and see what it does. And then I may top it off with something else. And, ooh, that's pretty. I'm going to blend it over into the blue and make it a little bit brighter. So the NIV added the pronoun there, which is not there. So they're trying to make it seem like Jesus was talking about throwing the crumbs to the children's dogs, when in actually he's talking about calling the Canaanite woman a dog, because the pronoun there, T-H-E-I-R, is not there. I'm going to take the same brush and go into this shade, which is Dreamer. No, is that Dreamer? No, it is Northern Lights. Northern Lights. I'm going to put that in my inner corner. Make it really bright. So this is why translations matter. Translations matter, and the translations that you use for academic study are very important. Now, this is where I also tell students, you don't go into your churches and tell your parishioners that they can't read certain translations. Your most important job is to love your people. And over the years, as you pastor and teach, you begin to explain to them why certain translations and understanding certain translations are important. But you never tell somebody that they can't read a translation. As a seminary professor, I can tell you which translation is important to read in the classroom setting, because that is my domain as the professor. And people, if they are getting a seminary education, they are trying to learn. But don't be stubborn and not read the right translation that I tell you to read in the context of our seminary class. And now I'm just going in and kind of reinforcing and blending together all of this that I've done. So here's the final look, friends. This is the Danessa Myrick's Lightwork Volume 7. I've used every color in this first section, the 6-pan, except this one at the top, which is Northern Lights. But I used every color in this 6-pan and talked about your NIV specifically mistranslating and manipulating the interpretation of Matthew chapter 15. So tomorrow I'll talk about an Old Testament passage, 2 Samuel chapter 12, I believe. Angela Parker, Boozy Bible Scholar. As always, friends, be bold, be brave, be brilliant, and I'll give you another look with the Danessa Myrick's Lightwork 7. See you next time.